Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today I'm going to show you how I made this cute little card, and I'm going to start with a technique that I use whenever I'm stamping a really detailed image like this house mouse design. I inked up the stamp and had it rubber side up on my table, and then I'm taking watercolor paper and pressing it down. Now this is cold pressed watercolor paper, so it has a little bit of texture, so using it in this fashion really helps the ink and the stamp bond to the paper and gives me a nice image. Hot pressed watercolor paper would give me an even crisper image, but I had this scrap laying around on my table and I wanted to use it. I'm using the new ZIG Clean Color Real Brush markers. That's a mouthful, and I've gone in with a little bit of a kind of a burnt sienna color and put my shadows in, and now I'm going over with this kind of tan caramel color. I don't remember the exact names, and I'm going in and kind of blending that out. These markers blend so well on watercolor paper. It almost just sits there nice and juicy until you go in with a blending pen, water, or with another lighter colored marker. I like to work dark to light because it does seem to blend a little bit better that way. Here I have some olive green, and I'm going in and adding some colors to the leaves. I always seem to forget a few, and then I have to come in later and touch it up. And I'm using this light green to just blend my colors out a bit. I'm really loving these markers. I like how they're a little bit smaller than a lot of the other markers, so I could actually just stick them in my bag with a tablet of watercolor paper or Bristol board and be able to go color on the go. Now I'm taking this purple, it's kind of like a lilac color, and I'm just adding it in the shadow areas, and then I have my Tombow blending pen, and I'm using that to blend out my colors. Now, I apologize for the sped up voiceover here, but yesterday, I'm telling you what, I had 3 videos that I started and nothing was happening. I did some really awful paintings and nothing was happening. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to sit and color and not try to talk at the same time and just enjoy a rerun of iZombie and, you know, just try to salvage something. And I really enjoyed my little coloring time here. I'm glad I recorded it so I could share it with you. So you can see how easy it was to color those magnolias just by using one shade of marker and the blending pen. Now the reason a blending pen works a little bit easier than a water brush, oh, and here I'm just using some gray and I'm touching it to the blue marker just to kind of tint the bird feeder color a little bit. The reason a blending pen works so well is because you've got water and glycerin in there, so it kind of lubricates the paper as you're blending, so you don't get the pilling of the watercolor paper and you don't get too much water. So that's why I do that sometimes instead of a water brush. Either way is going to work fine. If you want to do this technique with a paintbrush, just wet it, dab it off on a paper towel so you don't get too much water, and then go ahead and blend. And you'll get a very similar look. You could even put a little bit of glycerin in your water to make it a little bit wetter, to make your water wetter. I know that sounds so crazy, but it's kind of what it does. It breaks up the surface tension if you want to know the technical reason it works. And I'm here using this nice dark rich brown, and I wanted to I was going to go for chickadees, and I thought, you know, I think I want more like a sparrow, so I just used that dark brown and just blended it with my blender pen. And it was really hard for me to see that bird in the front because of all the stippling dots kind of got confusing. So I actually looked at my stamp while I was coloring just to make sure I knew where everything was going. And here I wanted to put a really, really light shade of blue in the bird feeder. So I scribbled off the marker on just a ceramic tile that I had left over from a home improvement project, and it kind of worked as a nice little palette. And you can do that with any of your water-based markers. If you find they don't blend as well as the Kuretake Zigs, go ahead and use a tile or a piece of plastic packaging or something like that for blending. It'll work just as well. You don't have to invest in the latest and greatest. You can use what you have. These are pretty awesome if you are looking to get a watercolor marker. I highly recommend these, but if you already have a different brand, then go ahead and use the tile method. There's a bird seed in the bird feeder, so I'm just kind of dabbing some like yellow ochre in the bird seed area. For the skin, I'm using flesh color and also a little bit of pink. And by putting the pink in the cheeks first and blending it out with the skin color, it looks really natural. I'm just using a couple shades of gray to make the silver on the bird feeder. And of course, dark first and then blend it out with your lighter. It doesn't contaminate the colors because they are real bristles. They just kind of, the ink just keeps flowing out, which is really, really great. And I'm just refining my bird feeder a little bit there. I'm using a white Prismacolor colored pencil. You could use whatever brand you want just to bring out some of the highlights in the bird feeder. That's kind of my last ditch effort if I mistakenly kind of go over the highlight area with my markers. So there's a little quick cheat for you. And I didn't want to get the background too bold, so I colored out my blue marker onto a tile, and I'm just using that to fill in the background. I can get some really good control with this blender pen. This is the Tombow blender pen, and I will leave a link in the video description to Hallmark Scrapbook where you can find that and these markers. But if you already have the Stampin' Up! Blending pen, that works just as well. I like both of them equally. I used to prefer the Stampin' Up! Pen because it had two brush tips, but actually the Tombow one has a brush tip on one end and a bullet on the other, so I found that has kind of been handy in areas where I need to really force some ink in a small area. So, you know, use either. They're both going to work awesome, and I think they just look fantastic. Here is a still shot of the image, all colored and pretty. Now we're going to go ahead and make a card. So what I did was I took a 5" by 5" piece of brown cardstock, and I'm just kind of inking it up. I had embossed it with a embossing folder to give it some texture, and I'm putting it on a scrap of purple that I had in my scrap bin. And now I'm going to grab 3 different shades of purple seam binding ribbon, which I love because it's very inexpensive, and I'm using my bow making tool to make a cool triple looped bow. So I have my little pegs about 1.5 inches apart. I'm just wrapping it around, tying it in a knot, and Bob's your uncle. See how easy it is to make a bow. And if you want to purchase one of those, they're $20. My husband makes them, and I ship them right out of our home in Maine. So I'll put a link below on how you can order those as well if you are curious on that respect. And now I'm just using some adhesive on the back of my little panel there, because if I adhere my tails to the back before I stick this panel on my card base, it's going to look seamless, and there's not going to be any ribbon or anything weird on the inside of the card. So just fluff my little bow, and we're good to go. All right, look at that. So now I'm going to trim off any loose bits that may hang out from under that panel on the card, and I'm putting on some more adhesive. I don't know if you can see it in this part, but my gun was getting a little gummed up and weird. And I'm just sticking that on a 5.5 by 5.5 card base. So I was thinking maybe I should have made that card a little bit smaller. Sometimes I go a little big and the image tends to get lost, so I'm not sure on that. This will probably be a card I hand deliver since it is a square and cost extra. Plus a bow sometimes makes it cost extra. And I'm going to put a couple just little buttons for embellishment. I tend to go pretty simple when I'm making a card. How about you? Let me know in the comments below. If you have a suggestion on how I might shake up my card making, I'd love it. I seem to make the same card over and over again with just different coloring and different images, but I guess we all get in our own little habits, don't we? Everyone seems to enjoy the cards either way, so I guess there's nothing wrong with that. And there you can see a closer look of the card. If you like this video, I would appreciate you giving it a thumbs up. And if you're not a subscriber, please hit that subscribe button, because we'd love to have you part of the Frugal Crafter family. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, happy crafting.